Welcome to a journey through time and mystery, where history's most intriguing enigmas come to life. In this video, we're going to explore some of the world's greatest unsolved mysteries. Our stories today begin in the mid-19th century, when whispers of unimaginable wealth first echoed through the wilds of the American Southwest. Tales of a hidden gold mine nestled deep within Arizona's Superstition Mountains. At first, it seemed like a prospector's dream, a glittering promise carved into the desert rock. But as the years passed, it became something else. A legend steeped in danger, greed, and unanswered questions. Was it a real treasure waiting to be claimed, or a cruel mirage conjured by the unforgiving wilderness? This is the story of the lost Dutchman's gold mine, one of the most enduring and tantalizing mysteries ever to haunt the American frontier. Imagine standing at the base of the Superstition Mountains in Arizona, where the rugged peaks and deep canyons seem to hold the secrets of the ages. The mountains are a maze of sandstone and granite, their faces etched with the stories of time. The air is dry and thin, and the sun beats down relentlessly. This is a place where the desert's beauty is matched only by its danger. Rattlesnakes, scorpions, and the unforgiving heat are constant companions. It's the kind of place where time slows down, where the modern world feels impossibly far away, and the past clings to every crevice. Yet, it's here that one of the most enduring and fascinating mysteries in American history is said to lie. A mystery that has lured adventurers and dreamers for over a century: the lost Dutchman's gold mine. The legend begins in the 1840s with the Peralta family from Mexico. They were wealthy ranchers who, according to some accounts, discovered a rich vein of gold in the Superstitions. They are said to have worked the mine for several years, extracting gold and sending it back to Mexico. However, in 1848, their luck ran out. A group of Peralta miners was ambushed by Apaches, and the survivors were forced to flee, leaving the mine's location unknown. Some historians argue that the Peralta family did mine in the area, but not necessarily in the Superstitions, while others claim they were involved in cattle ranching and had no connection to gold mining. Despite these debates, the Peralta name remains synonymous with the lost Dutchman's legend. Now, into this tale of lost gold steps a shadowy figure, a man named Jacob Waltz, a German immigrant known simply as the Dutchman. Born in Württemberg, Germany, in 1810, Waltz came to the United States in the mid-19th century, eventually settling in Arizona. He was a farmer and part-time prospector, known for his taciturn nature and his love of the outdoors. Legend has it that in the late 1860s or early 1870s, Waltz discovered the Peralta mine or found a new rich gold deposit in the Superstitions. He kept the location secret, occasionally bringing high-grade gold ore to Phoenix to sell. The gold was so pure that it fetched top prices, fueling speculation about its origin. According to some stories, Waltz would only travel to the mine at night, using the stars to navigate, and he would never reveal his path to anyone. When asked about the mine's location, he would simply smile and say, "It's in the mountains," leaving his interrogators frustrated. When Waltz died in 1891, he took the secret of the mine's location to his grave. His neighbors, particularly Julia and 𝒋𝒐𝒊𝒏, who had cared for him in his final days, tried to find the mine based on his vague descriptions. They searched the mountains for years, following every lead and clue they could find. Despite their efforts, they never found the mine, and their failure only served to increase the legend's allure. 𝒋𝒐𝒊𝒏 wrote a book titled The Lost Dutchman Mine in 1951, detailing their search and the history of the legend, which became a bestseller and further popularized the story. The Superstition Mountains are not only physically dangerous but also have a reputation for being haunted. There are stories of ghosts and spirits that protect the mine, punishing those who dare to seek its treasures. Some treasure hunters have reported hearing strange sounds or seeing apparitions while in the mountains. Others have spoken of feeling an ominous presence or a sense of being watched. These experiences have led many to believe that the mine is guarded by some supernatural force. Over the years, many have lost their lives while searching for the mine, leading to beliefs that the mine is cursed. One of the most famous cases is that of Adolf Ruth, a retired postal worker from Washington, D.C., who in 1931 claimed to have found the mine. He disappeared during his search, and his skull was later found with a bullet hole. The circumstances of his death remain a mystery, fueling speculation about foul play or a curse associated with the mine. Another notable incident involved Jesse Kappen, a Denver bellhop who was fascinated by the legend. In 2009, he set out to find the mine but never returned. His remains were found in 2012 at the base of a cliff, suggesting that he had fallen to his death. His story is a stark reminder of the dangers that await those who venture into the superstitions unprepared. Despite these tragedies, the allure of the lost Dutchman's gold mine persists. In 2018, a group called Arcana Exploration and Discovery claimed to have found the mine after years of research and exploration. They stated that they had located a cave containing gold ore matching the description from Waltz's time. However, they have not provided verified evidence, and the location remains unconfirmed. Skeptics argue that without concrete proof, their claim is just another in a long line of false leads. In addition to Arcana's claim, there have been other reports, such as John D. Brewer in the 1990s, who claimed to have found the mine and offered to sell its location for $1 million, but no one took him up on his offer, and the location remains unknown. The legend is supported by various clues and artifacts. Among them are the Peralta stone maps, which are said to be maps etched on stones that depict the location of the mine. These maps were discovered in the 1940s by a treasure hunter named D. Avery, who found them in a cave in the Superstitions. The maps show various landmarks and symbols that are believed to correspond to features in the mountains. However, their authenticity is still a matter of debate, with some experts claiming they are modern forgeries. Today, some of the Peralta stones are on display at the Apache Junction Chamber of Commerce, while others are in private collections. They continue to be a source of fascination and controversy among treasure hunters and historians. Another intriguing piece is the thunder egg, a type of geode found in the area, known for its beautiful crystal formations. According to legend, there is one specific thunder egg that, when placed in a certain location, casts a shadow or reflects light in a way that points directly to the mine's entrance. However, no one has been able to find this particular egg or verify its existence. Despite extensive searches and numerous claims, the mine has never been definitively found. Some believe that the mine was exhausted by the Peralta family or by Waltz himself, and there's no gold left to find. Others think that the mine is still there, but its entrance has been hidden or collapsed over time, making it impossible to locate. There are even theories that the mine is protected by some supernatural force, a curse that prevents anyone from finding it. The lost Dutchman's gold mine, whether real or mythical, is a testament to the human spirit's quest for adventure and the allure of hidden treasure. It's a story that continues to inspire and captivate, reminding us that some mysteries are meant to endure. Imagine a hidden cave deep within the mountains, its entrance obscured by boulders and brush. Inside, the walls glisten with veins of gold, sparkling in the light of a miner's lamp. This is the vision that has driven treasure hunters for over a century: the lost Dutchman's gold mine. The story of the lost Dutchman's gold mine is more than just a tale of hidden treasure. It's a reflection of the human desire to explore, to conquer the unknown, and to find something of great value in the most unlikely places. Whether the mine exists or not, its legend will continue to captivate and inspire for generations to come. As we conclude our exploration of the lost Dutchman's gold mine, we're left with more questions than answers. The mine's existence remains a mystery, but its legend lives on, inspiring new generations of treasure hunters and dreamers. Stay tuned for the next installment of our series, where we'll delve into another fascinating unsolved mystery. What do you think? Is the lost Dutchman's gold mine real, or is it just a legend? Let me know in the comments below.
What, you never seen a talking gargoyle before? Welcome to Illuminati headquarters. I mean, Denver International Airport.
Picture this. You're stepping off a plane, bleary-eyed from a long flight, and instead of the usual airport humdrum, you're greeted by a towering blue horse with glowing red eyes, murals of gas-masked soldiers, and whispers of underground bunkers hiding lizard people. Welcome to Denver International Airport, or DIA as the locals call it. a place where the baggage claim comes with a side of conspiracy. This isn't just an airport. It's a rabbit hole of mystery that's been baffling travelers, locals, and internet sleuths since it opened in 1995. So, what's the deal? Is DIA a harmless hub with a quirky sense of humor, or is it hiding something sinister beneath its sprawling runways? In this video, we're taking you on a wild ride through the Denver International Airport's strangest secrets. From cursed statues to apocalyptic art, from Freemason symbols to tales of the Illuminati, we're unpacking it all. Buckle up, hit that subscribe button, and let's explore whether DIA is a gateway to the skies, or a portal to something far darker. The birth of a behemoth. Our story begins in the late 1980s when Denver decides it's time to ditch its old airport, Stapleton International. Stapleton's a mess, runways too close together, delays piling up like snow in the Rockies, and no room to grow. Enter the plan for a new airport, one that'll be the biggest in the Western Hemisphere, sprawling across 33,000 acres of windswept plains 25 miles from downtown Denver. It's ambitious, it's bold, and it's about to get weird. Construction kicks off in 1989, and right away, things go off the rails. The budget balloons from $2 billion to nearly $5 billion, billions more than anyone expected. Deadlines slip like sand through fingers, pushing the grand opening from 1993 to February 28, 1995. And the location? It's so far from the city that some wonder if it's even practical. Whispers start swirling. Why the delays? Why the cost overruns? Why build it way out here in the middle of nowhere? Bad planning. To others, it's the first clue that something's not right. When DIA finally opens, it's a marvel. 6 runways, a tented roof mimicking the jagged peaks of the Rockies, and the longest public runway in North America at 16,000 feet. But beneath the shine, the rumors are already festering. This isn't just an airport, they say. It's a cover for something much bigger. 𝒏𝒕𝒐𝒍𝒅, the demon horse of doom. Let's start with the most in-your-face enigma. The Mustang statue, better known as 𝒏𝒕𝒐𝒍𝒅. Picture it. You're driving up Peña Boulevard toward DIA, and there it is. A 32-foot-tall electric blue horse rearing up on its hind legs, its neon red eyes piercing the night like twin lasers. It's bold, it's bizarre, and it's got a backstory that'll chill your spine. Created by artist Luis Jimenez, this fiberglass beast was meant to symbolize the wild spirit of the West. But in 2006, while Jimenez was working on it in his studio, tragedy struck. A massive section of the sculpture breaks free, falls, and crushes him, severing an artery. He bleeds out, dying before 𝒏𝒕𝒐𝒍𝒅 is even finished. The statue's completed by others and unveiled in 2008, but the damage is done, literally and figuratively. Locals dub it 𝒏𝒐𝒍𝒅, half joking, half serious, and the conspiracies ignite. Those glowing eyes? Some say they're a nod to the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, a harbinger of doom. The fact that it killed its own creator? Proof it's cursed, maybe even demonic. Stand beneath it at dusk, the Rockies looming in the distance, and you can't help but feel a shiver. Is 𝒏𝒕𝒐𝒍𝒅 just art gone wrong? Or is it DIA's first warning shot? The murals, art or apocalypse? Head inside the 𝒋𝒐𝒻 terminal, and the weirdness ramps up. In the baggage claim area, you'll find 2 massive murals by artist Leo Tanguma, Children of the World Dream of Peace, and In Peace and Harmony with Nature. At first glance, they're vibrant and hopeful. Kids from every nation smiling under rainbows, animals frolicking in harmony. But look closer, and the vibe shifts. One section shows a soldier in a gas mask, a saber in one hand, a machine gun in the other, looming over a crowd of weeping women and children. Dead doves lie at his feet. Cities burn in the background. Another panel has animals in glass cases, like a twisted zoo of extinction, while a forest fire rages nearby. It's dark, it's dystopian, and it's in an airport of all places. Tanguma says it's a protest against war and environmental ruin, with peace triumphing in the end. But conspiracy theorists see something else, a blueprint for the end times. They point to the soldier as a symbol of a new world order, a shadowy elite plotting global control. The dead animals? A hint at mass extinction orchestrated by DIA's secret masters. And those happy kids? Maybe they're the chosen ones, spared for some post-apocalyptic utopia. Stare at these murals long enough, and you'll start wondering, is this art with a message or a message disguised as art? The Freemason capstone. A secret society's mark? Now let's head to the south entrance of the terminal, where a granite slab sits like a silent sentinel. This is the dedication capstone, laid on March 19, 1994, sealing a time capsule to be opened in 2094. Etched into it are the words, New World Airport Commission, and the Freemason symbol, a square and compass. It's a quiet detail, easy to miss amid the bustle, but it sparked some of DIA's wildest theories. First off, the New World Airport Commission? No record of it exists beyond this stone. Airport officials say it was a temporary group formed to hype the opening, named after Dvořák's New World Symphony. Harmless, right? Not to everyone. That phrase, New World, echoes the New World Order, a supposed cabal of global elites. Add the Freemason symbol, tied to a centuries-old secret society, and the plot thickens. Is this proof DIA was built by a shadowy fraternity, maybe even the Illuminati, to serve as their Western HQ? The capstone's contents are mundane: newspapers, a Colorado flag, some coins. But why seal it for a century? What's so special about 2094? The stone sits there, unyielding, as travelers rush past, oblivious to the questions it raises. The underground tunnels, bunkers or baggage, here's where things get really juicy. Beneath DIA's gleaming surface lies a network of tunnels, 6 levels deep by some counts. Officially, they're for baggage handling and utilities, a practical maze for the airport's 1,000+ employees. But venture underground, where the air hums with machinery and the walls echo with footsteps, and the rumors take hold. Conspiracy buffs claim these aren't just tunnels, they're bunkers, built to shelter the world's elite during an apocalypse. Some say they stretch to NORAD in Cheyenne Mountain, 100 miles away, a secret escape route for the powerful. Others whisper of alien bases, lizard people, or concentration camps, pointing to the airport's vast 53-square-mile footprint as proof it's hiding more than meets the eye. In 2016, DIA started offering public tours of the tunnels, showing off baggage systems and utility rooms. Reporters have gone down too, finding nothing but concrete and conveyor belts. But the sheer scale, 7,000-foot tunnels, unused spaces from a failed automated baggage system, keeps the speculation alive. Why so much room? What's really down there? The runways. Swastika or smart design? Zoom out to an aerial view, and DIA's layout raises eyebrows. The runways fan out in a pinwheel pattern that, if you squint, kinda sorta looks like a swastika. It's a stretch, but for conspiracy theorists, it's gold. They argue it's a deliberate nod to Nazism, tying DIA to a New World Order with fascist roots. The reality? It's about efficiency. DIA's design lets planes take off and land in multiple directions, dodging Denver's wild winds and thin mountain air. Stapleton's crisscrossed runways couldn't handle that. DIA's can. Still, from 30,000 feet, that shape lingers in the mind, a Rorschach test for the paranoid. The gargoyles. Guardians or ghouls? Back inside, peek up at the baggage claim, and you'll spot 2 bronze gargoyles perched in open suitcases. Called Notre Denver, they're a playful nod to Gothic architecture meant to protect your luggage with a grin, but not everyone's laughing. Some see them as sinister sentinels, demonic watchers tied to the airport's occult undertones. In 2019, DIA leaned into the lore, adding a talking gargoyle that cracks jokes and teases passengers. It's a hit, creepy yet charming, but for the diehards it's just more evidence. Why gargoyles in an airport unless something's up? So, why does DIA breed conspiracies like a petri dish? It's a perfect storm. The cost overruns and delays scream cover-up. The remote location fuels isolation tales. The art, Lucifer, the murals, the gargoyles, practically begs for interpretation. And that capstone? It's a conspiracy theorist's dream. Add a botched baggage system in '95 that shredded luggage like confetti, and you've got a recipe for suspicion. Psychologists say it's human nature. We crave meaning in chaos. An airport this big, this odd, can't just be an airport, right? DIA's marketing team knows it too. They've embraced the weirdness with alien-themed events, tongue-in-cheek signs about lizard people, and that chatty gargoyle. It's fun, it's branding, but it keeps the rumors simmering. Let's ground this for a second. DIA's huge because Denver needed it. Stapleton was choking on growth. The tunnels are for bags, not bunkers. The art's just art, funded by a mandatory 1% public budget. 𝒂𝒐𝒍💅 a tragedy, not a curse. The capstone's a ceremonial quirk, not a Freemason manifesto. And those runways? Pure engineering, not Nazi code. Over 82 million passengers passed through in 2024, the 6th busiest in the world. It's a functional beast, not a doomsday lair. But stand in that terminal, the tented roof glowing like a cathedral, 𝒂𝒐𝒍💅 glaring in the distance, and you can't shake the feeling. Something's off. Maybe it's the altitude. 5,280 feet above sea level messes with your head. Or maybe, just maybe, there's a sliver of truth buried in the madness. So, here we are at the gate. Is Denver International Airport a quirky travel hub with a flair for the dramatic, or a cryptic fortress hiding secrets we won't unravel until 2094, or beyond? The evidence leans practical, but the atmosphere screams mystery. It's a place where history and hearsay collide, where every corner holds a story, or a shadow. What's your take? Do you buy the conspiracies? The bunkers, the New World Order, the apocalyptic vibes, or is DIA just an airport with a wild imagination? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button if this trip thrilled you, and subscribe for more dives into the strange and unexplained. Next time you're at DIA, look around. You might just see something or someone watching back.
The path we have chosen for the present is full of hazards, as all paths are. But it is the one most consistent with our character and courage as a nation and our commitments around the world. The cost of freedom is always high.
What if one family's rise to power came with a price too steep to pay? A name synonymous with charisma, ambition, and unimaginable tragedy. The Kennedys. From the White House to the headlines of heartbreak, their story reads like a Shakespearean drama. Triumph, loss, and a haunting question that lingers for decades.
John F. Kennedy died at approximately 1 o'clock Central Standard Time today here in Dallas.
Was it fate, a curse, or simply the cost of living under the world's brightest spotlight? In this video, we unravel the enigma of the Kennedy family, a legacy of power, pain, and the unexplainable. Strap in, because this isn't just history, it's a mystery that still captivates the world. Let's dive in. The roots of royalty, the Kennedy rise. Every epic tale has a beginning, and for the Kennedys, it starts with Patrick Kennedy, a weary Irish immigrant stepping onto Boston's shores in the 1840s, fleeing the Great Famine. With nothing but grit and a dream, he plants the seed of an American dynasty. Fast forward to his grandson, Joseph P. Kennedy Sr., a shrewd businessman who turns stocks, real estate, and Hollywood ventures into a dazzling fortune. Joseph marries Rose Fitzgerald, the daughter of Boston's mayor, a woman of grace and iron will. Together, they raise 9 children, 4 boys and 5 girls, in a world of ambition and unspoken expectations. But 3 would rise to shape history. John F. Kennedy, JFK, becomes the 35th president, his voice ringing with promises of a new frontier. Robert F. Kennedy, Bobby, fights for justice as Attorney General and Senator. And Edward Ted Kennedy carves his name into American politics over decades in the Senate. The Kennedys aren't just a family, they're a phenomenon. They're Camelot, America's fairy tale, complete with dashing heroes and a nation hanging on their every word. But fairy tales have dark corners, and the Kennedy story is about to take a turn no one could predict. The first strike, Joseph P. Kennedy Jr. It's 1944, and World War II is raging like a storm across the globe. Joseph P. Kennedy Jr., the eldest son, steps into the spotlight. He's the heir apparent, tall, handsome, and burning with ambition. Joe Sr. dreams of him in the Oval Office, but war has other plans. Joe Jr. volunteers for a secret mission, piloting a B-24 Liberator packed with explosives meant to crash into a German target after he parachutes to safety. The sky is clear that August day, but fate isn't. Mid-flight, the plane erupts in a fireball, killing Joe Jr. at just 29. His body is never found. Back home, the Kennedy estate falls silent. Joe Sr.'s hopes crumble, and Rose clings to her rosary, whispering prayers for a son who'll never return. It's a wound that bleeds deep, but it's only the first cut in a tapestry of sorrow. Kathleen's fall, a rebel's end. 4 years later, tragedy strikes again. Kathleen Kick Kennedy, the fourth child, is a free spirit who dances to her own tune. Widowed after her British husband dies in the war, she falls in love with Peter Fitzwilliam, a charming nobleman. In 1948, they fly to France, dreaming of a future unshackled by convention. But the skies turn treacherous. Their small plane crashes in a storm over the Rhone Valley, killing them both. Rose, already mourning Joe Jr., collapses under the weight of another loss. Kick's death feels like a warning, a sign that the Kennedys' golden touch comes with a price. JFK, the day Camelot died. Now we arrive at the moment that shakes the world. November 22, 1963. John F. Kennedy, the president who embodies hope, is in Dallas, Texas, waving to adoring crowds from an open-top car. The sun glints off his smile, Jackie radiant in pink beside him. Then, crack. A rifle shot splits the air. JFK slumps forward, blood staining the day. Lee Harvey Oswald, a lone gunman perched in a book depository, has just ended a presidency and a dream. The nation freezes. Jackie cradles her husband's head, her elegance drowned in grief. Within hours, the news spread like wildfire. JFK is dead at 46. The Kennedy compound in Hyannisport becomes a mausoleum of silence. Joe Sr., mute from a stroke, can only stare as his second son's coffin passes by. And the questions begin. Was it really just Oswald? Was it the CIA, the mafia, a government plot? Conspiracy theories swirl, but one thing is clear. The Kennedy curse has claimed its most famous victim, and America will never be the same. Bobby's last stand. The wound of JFK's death is still raw when Robert F. Kennedy steps forward. It's 1968 and Bobby's running for president, his voice a clarion call for peace and equality. He's in Los Angeles, celebrating a primary win at the Ambassador Hotel. The crowd roars as he finishes his speech, his eyes alight with the same fire that once burned in Jack. He slips into the kitchen to shake hands with staff, and then, chaos. 𝒍𝒅, a 24-year-old with a grudge and a gun, fires. Bullets tear through the air, striking Bobby in the head and chest. He collapses, a pool of blood spreading beneath him. For 26 agonizing hours, he clings to life, his wife Ethel by his side, pregnant with their 11th child. But on June 6, 1968, Bobby slips away at 42. Another Kennedy felled, another dream extinguished. Ted, now the last brother standing, delivers a eulogy that trembles with sorrow. My brother need not be idealized. He should be remembered simply as a good and decent man. The curse tightens its grip. Chappaquiddick, Ted's dark night. Ted Kennedy, the youngest, inherits a legacy soaked in blood and expectation. He's a senator, a rising star, but on July 18, 1969, his story takes a grim twist. It's a humid night on Chappaquiddick Island, Massachusetts. Ted's at a party, laughing with friends, when he offers to drive Mary Jo Kopechny, a 28-year-old campaign aide, back to her hotel. The Oldsmobile hums along a quiet road, until it doesn't. The car veers off a narrow bridge, plunging into the dark waters of Poocha Pond. Ted escapes, clawing his way to the surface, but Mary Jo is trapped inside. Hours pass, 9 to be exact, before he reports the accident. By then, she's gone, drowned in the submerged wreck. The headlines scream scandal. Was it negligence? A cover-up? Ted pleads guilty to leaving the scene, but the questions linger. In a televised confession, he asks, Is there some awful curse hanging over all the Kennedys? The public wonders, too, as Ted's political dreams sink beneath the weight of that night. John Jr., the prince's final flight. The next generation inherits the curse's shadow. John F. Kennedy Jr., JFK's son, is America's prince, ruggedly handsome, effortlessly cool, a man who seems destined to reclaim Camelot. It's July 16th, 1999, and John, 38, is flying his wife Carolyn Bessette Kennedy and her sister Lauren to a family wedding. The Piper Saratoga hums over the Atlantic, the lights of Martha's Vineyard glowing in the distance. But the night is hazy, the horizon a blur. John, an amateur pilot, loses his bearings. The plane dips, then plummets, slicing into the ocean with a sickening crash. All three are lost, their bodies later pulled from the wreckage. The nation mourns again, whispering that the curse has struck anew. John Jr.'s death feels like the final note in a symphony of sorrow, a reminder that even the brightest stars can fall. A litany of loss, the lesser-known tragedies. The curse doesn't stop with the headliners. There's Rosemary Kennedy, the third child, born with intellectual disabilities. In 1941, Joe Sr. orders a lobotomy to fix her, a barbaric procedure that leaves her a shell of herself institutionalized until her death in 2005. David Kennedy, Bobby's son, succumbs to a drug overdose in 1984, his 28 years drowned in addiction. Michael Kennedy, another of Bobby's boys, dies in a 1997 skiing accident, crashing into a tree at 39. And Mary Richardson Kennedy, RFK Jr.'s wife, took her life in 2012. Her battle with depression was a quiet tragedy with a loud legacy. These stories, less splashed across headlines, weave a thread of relentless loss. The Kennedys seem besieged, each generation touched by a hand that spares no one, unraveling the curse. Myth or math? So what is this Kennedy curse? The phrase catches fire after Chappaquiddick, but its roots stretch back decades. Some whisper of Irish lore, a banshee's wail following Patrick Kennedy across the sea. Others point to Joe Sr.'s shady deals and his rumored ties to bootleggers and mobsters as the spark of a karmic fire. But let's strip away the mysticism and look at the facts. The Kennedys are a big family, 9 siblings and dozens of grandchildren. More people, more chances for tragedy. They live loud lives, flying planes, chasing power, standing in the crosshairs of history. Piloting small aircraft, as Joe Jr., Kathleen, and John Jr. did, is risky business. Politics, especially in the 60s, invites enemies. JFK and RFK paid the ultimate price. And fame? It turns every misstep into a spectacle. Statistically, their losses aren't impossible. They're just impossibly public. Yet the sheer volume, the back-to-back blows, feels uncanny. Is it fate, a hex, or just the chaos of a world that doesn't care who you are? The weight of a name. There's another layer, the Kennedy psyche. Imagine growing up knowing you're a Kennedy. Every move watched, every failure magnified, every success demanded. John Jr. flies into a foggy night, perhaps chasing the ghost of his father's fearlessness. Ted delays reporting Chappaquiddick, maybe paralyzed by the terror of tarnishing the family crest. The pressure is a crucible, forging brilliance but also breaking spirits. Addiction, recklessness, despair. These aren't just tragedies, they're the fallout of a legacy too heavy to bear, rising from the ashes. Yet the Kennedys don't just fall, they rise. Ted, battered by loss and scandal, becomes the Lion of the Senate, fighting for healthcare and equality until his death in 2009. RFK Jr. channels his grief into environmental crusades. They turn pain into purpose, proving that even a cursed family can leave a mark of good. It's a defiance that defies the darkness, a flicker of light in a storm of shadows. So, what's your take? Curse or chaos? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more gripping tales. The Kennedy story isn't over, and neither are the mysteries that surround it. What if I told you that one family financed the Suez Canal, influenced the creation of the U.S. Federal Reserve, and is even rumored to have ties to the Illuminati? From whispers of controlling the European Union and the World Bank, to claims of sparking the French Revolution, the Rothschild story is a labyrinth of power, conspiracy, and mystery. Welcome to Untold Mysteries. Today we're unraveling the truth behind the Rothschild family, one of the most intriguing and debated mysteries in our series. Let's dive in. Picture the cobblestone streets of Frankfurt's Jewish quarter, a place alive with the clatter of carts and the hum of commerce. It's here, in a modest house marked by a red shield, Rothschild in German, that Mayor Amschel Rothschild was born. The year was 1744, and the world was a patchwork of kingdoms and empires, each jostling for power. Mayer started small, advising the Elector of Hesse and later his son, William IX, one of Europe's richest men. He had a knack for numbers and a quiet determination that set him apart. But it was his 5 sons, Nathan, James, Salomon, Karl, and Amschel, who would transform this modest start into something extraordinary. They fanned out across Europe, setting up banking houses in London, Paris, Vienna, Naples, and Frankfurt, weaving a financial web that stretched from the foggy docks of the Thames to the sunlit boulevards of Paris. By the time the Napoleonic Wars rolled around in 1803, the Rothschilds were ready to make their mark, financing the British war effort against Napoleon with a system so efficient it seemed almost magical. Money moved across borders faster than armies could march. It all started with a spark of ambition in that Frankfurt house, where Mayer taught his sons the art of discretion and the power of opportunity. During those chaotic war years, their network became a lifeline for Britain, funneling funds to fight Napoleon's armies. One tale from this time has captured imaginations ever since: the story of Nathan Rothschild in London during the Battle of Waterloo in 1815. They say he got word of the British victory before anyone else, thanks to a fleet of swift messengers, and used it to play the stock market like a fiddle. The legend goes that he sold bonds, tricking traders into thinking Britain had lost, then bought them back cheap when prices crashed, pocketing a fortune when the real news broke. It's a gripping yarn, isn't it? But historians aren't so sure. Some call it pure fiction, a tale spun to make the Rothschilds seem larger than life, while others reckon Nathan did profit, but not with such theatrical cunning. Whatever the truth, that moment in 1815 planted a seed of mystery that would grow wild over the years. Their wealth didn't stop at war financing. As the 19th century unfolded, the Rothschilds became the go-to bankers for kings and governments, their names synonymous with money itself. Imagine the scene in 1859 when they handed over a hefty loan to Egypt to build the Suez Canal, a waterway that would link Europe to Asia, cutting months off trade routes. Ships gliding through that sandy lifeline owed their passage to Rothschild gold. Then there's De Beers, the diamond empire they helped shape, their investments turning rough stones into glittering fortunes. They even poured money into Jewish settlements in Palestine, laying the groundwork for what would become Israel. Their reach was vast, their influence undeniable. Some called them the Royal Family of Finance, a title that carried both awe and suspicion. But with such power came whispers, and those whispers grew into full-blown tales of conspiracy. Picture the Rothschilds in their grand offices, marble floors, heavy oak desks, ledgers stacked high, quietly managing the wealth of nations. To some, they were just bankers doing their job, but to others, they were something more sinister, shadowy figures controlling the world's money, pulling levers behind every major event. One of the wildest theories claims they own the global economy outright, holding the reins of central banks like the Federal Reserve in the US. It's a bold idea, isn't it? The notion that one family could grip the world's purse strings so tightly. But when you dive into the facts, it doesn't hold water. The Federal Reserve, set up in 1913, is a public system run by the US government, not a private fiefdom of the Rothschilds. Sure, they were giants in banking back in the day, but their influence has shrunk over time. No secret vaults or hidden empires here, just a family whose knack for finance made them legends. Then there's the idea that they orchestrated history itself, the French Revolution, the Napoleonic Wars, all to line their pockets. Imagine the chaos of 1789 Paris, mobs in the streets, guillotines gleaming, a nation tearing itself apart. Could a fledgling banking family in Frankfurt have sparked that fire? Historians say no. The Rothschilds were still building their business then, not yet the titans they'd become. They did profit from financing wars later on. That's true enough. But that's what bankers did in those days, lending to whoever could pay. It's a stretch to say they caused the bloodshed just to cash in. The evidence simply isn't there. The conspiracies don't stop there. Some folks whisper that the Rothschilds are part of the Illuminati, that secretive group said to steer world events from the shadows. The Illuminati popped up in 1776, only to be shut down by 1785, and there's no trace of them, or the Rothschilds, running the show today. It's a tantalizing thought, though. A family tied to a mysterious order, controlling everything from wars to weather. But it's all speculation, no solid proof, just stories that swirl like smoke around their name. And what about the media? There's a theory they own every newspaper and TV station, shaping what we think. Imagine their boardrooms buzzing with plans to control the headlines. But again, the facts don't back it up. They've had investments here and there, sure, but no grand media empire. Then there's the claim they created the European Union or the World Bank. Picture the post-World War II world, leaders scrambling to rebuild. Did the Rothschilds mastermind it all? Hardly. The EU came from men like Jean Monnet, dreaming of peace, not from a Rothschild blueprint. The World Bank was a UN effort, led by the US, not a family scheme. These theories paint a picture of a family with godlike power, but the reality is more grounded. They were players in a big game, not the ones writing the rules. Now here's where the story takes an unexpected turn, away from shadowy plots to something more tangible. During World War II, the Rothschilds faced a real loss, not of power, but of beauty. Picture their grand homes, Château de Ferrières in France, Waddesdon Manor in England, filled with art that rivaled any museum, Vermeer's delicate brushstrokes, Rembrandt's golden light, treasures collected over generations. When the Nazis swept through Europe, they didn't just target people. They looted art, and the Rothschilds, being Jewish, were prime targets. Their estates were ransacked, paintings ripped from walls, and sculptures hauled away. Some pieces were recovered after the war, but others, like certain Vermeer works, vanished into the chaos. In 2018, a painting by Gustave Courbet, Femme nue couchée, stolen from them decades ago, turned up in a French museum and was returned. A small victory. But many treasures are still out there, hidden in private collections or lost forever. A mystery not of conspiracy, but of stolen history. This missing art became a quiet obsession for some in the family and for art historians alike. Imagine The Concert by Vermeer, its figures frozen mid-melody, last seen in a German salt mine in 1945. Where is it now? No one knows. The Rothschilds have spent years tracking these lost pieces, piecing together clues from wartime records, hoping to reclaim what was taken. It's a different kind of enigma, one grounded in the real pain of loss, not the wild tales of world domination. Unlike the conspiracies, this mystery has weight, a trail of evidence that leads somewhere, even if the end remains out of sight. The Rothschilds' story isn't all about missing paintings or grand conspiracies, though. Their lives had their share of drama. Legal squabbles over inheritance, like after certain deaths, were messy but not mysterious. There was a kidnapping attempt in 1978 on Baroness Marie-Helene de Rothschild, but the culprits were caught. No lingering secrets there. A plane crash in 1997 took a family member's life, but it was pinned on mechanical failure, not foul play. These moments, while dramatic, don't fuel the same kind of intrigue as the bigger myths. Yet the myths persist, don't they? The Rothschilds blended into Britain's elite. Lionel became the first Jewish MP, and his son Nathan, the first Baron Rothschild in 1885. They married into aristocracy, earned titles, but that only fanned the flames of suspicion. Their wealth and Jewish heritage made them targets, especially for anti-Semitic tales that painted them as part of a global plot. It's a sad thread in their story, how success bred resentment, how their achievements were twisted into something sinister. Why do these ideas stick? Maybe it's human nature, the urge to explain the world's chaos by pointing to a hidden hand, especially one tied to a family so visibly powerful. So where does that leave us? The Rothschilds built an empire from a Frankfurt house, shaped economies, and left a mark on history that's hard to ignore. The conspiracies, controlling banks, sparking wars, running secret societies, sound thrilling, but they crumble under scrutiny. Their real story is impressive enough, financing the Suez Canal, boosting De Beers, aiding Jewish settlers. And then there's that haunting mystery of the missing art, a reminder of loss amid their triumphs. What's the truth here? Were they just bankers who got lucky? Or did they wield a power we'll never fully grasp? The answer, for now, lies somewhere in the shadows of history, waiting for us to decide. The Rothschilds' tale leaves us with more questions than answers. Are the conspiracies wild fiction? Or is there a kernel of truth buried deep? Either way, it's a story that reminds us how much of our past is still a puzzle. How many secrets linger just out of reach? What do you think? Myth or reality? Let me know in the comments below. Now, on to the next story.
Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Be water, my friend.
It's July 20th, 1973, Hong Kong. In a modest apartment, a man stands at the pinnacle of his life, 32 years old, chiseled like a statue, his every move a symphony of power and precision. This is Bruce Lee, the martial arts icon who's just finished filming Enter the Dragon, a movie poised to catapult him to become the first Asian star to conquer Hollywood. He's unstoppable, a living legend, the dragon incarnate. But that night, something unthinkable happens. Bruce Lee collapses, motionless, silent, gone. The world wakes up to a headline that hits like a thunderclap. Bruce Lee is dead. Now hold on. The official explanation sounds simple enough. A headache, a painkiller, a fatal reaction. Case closed. But this is Bruce Lee we're talking about. A man whose life was anything but ordinary. Almost instantly, the whispers begin. Was it murder? A curse? The CIA? A jealous lover? 50 years later, the mystery of Bruce Lee's death remains unsolved, a puzzle that continues to captivate and haunt us. In this video, we're peeling back the layers of Bruce Lee's final hours, exploring the facts, the wild theories, and the haunting questions that keep his death alive in our minds. So buckle up, hit that subscribe button, and let's plunge into a story as electrifying as the man himself. Because the death of Bruce Lee is a puzzle that just won't die. Chapter 1. The Making of a Legend. To understand the end, we've got to rewind to the beginning. Bruce Lee was born on November 27, 1940, in San Francisco's Chinatown. His father, Lee Hoi Chuen, was a renowned Cantonese opera singer, while his mother, Grace Ho, was of Eurasian heritage. They named him Lee Junfan, but fate had bigger plans than a quiet life in California. Just months after his birth, his family returned to Hong Kong, a bustling city of neon lights and narrow alleys. As a toddler, he was already on screen, a baby in his father's films, but the streets were where he truly grew up. By his teens, he was scrappy, restless, getting into fights with local toughs. At 13, he found his calling under the wing of Ip Man, a grandmaster of Wing Chun. His hands moved like lightning. His feet danced with purpose. Bruce Lee was no ordinary kid. At 18, Bruce Lee set sail for America, arriving in Seattle with little more than $100 in his pocket and an unshakable determination to forge his own path. He enrolled at the University of Washington, where he studied philosophy and began teaching martial arts to support himself. It was during this time that he developed 𝒌𝒐𝒊𝒆𝒔, a revolutionary martial arts philosophy that rejected rigid traditions in favor of adaptability, fluidity, and freedom. His famous mantra, "Be water, my friend," encapsulated this ethos, a concept that would resonate far beyond his lifetime. Bruce Lee redefined the limits of human potential. With blinding speed, pinpoint precision, and an almost supernatural awareness of his body, he transformed martial arts into an art form. His two-finger push-ups, one-inch punches, and lightning-fast kicks weren't just feats of strength. They were expressions of a philosophy celebrating relentless self-mastery. He wasn't just a fighter. He was a visionary who made the impossible look effortless. Hollywood soon took notice, and in 1966, Lee landed the role of Kato in The Green Hornet. His electrifying screen presence and unparalleled martial arts skills made him a standout, yet the industry confined him to stereotypical roles: sidekick, servant, never the leading man. Frustrated by the limitations imposed on him, Lee grew increasingly determined to break free from these constraints. His ambition and talent far outstripped the narrow vision of an industry unwilling to see him as more than a supporting player. In 1971, Bruce Lee returned to Hong Kong, signing a groundbreaking deal with Golden Harvest. What followed was nothing short of explosive. His first major film, The Big Boss, released that same year, shattered box office records. Theaters couldn't keep up with the overwhelming demand, as audiences flocked to witness his electrifying screen presence. The next year, 1972, brought Fist of Fury, a powerful tale of resistance that cemented Lee's status as a cultural icon. But he wasn't done yet. That same year, Lee wrote, directed, and starred in The Way of the Dragon, a film that showcased not only his martial arts mastery but also his creative vision. The movie's climactic fight scene, a legendary duel with Chuck Norris in Rome's Colosseum, remains one of the most iconic moments in cinematic history, still analyzed, celebrated, and revered to this day. By 1973, Lee was completing Enter the Dragon, a Hollywood co-production poised to catapult him to global superstardom and redefine the action genre. The world was at his feet until tragedy struck. Chapter 2, The Final Hours, July 20th, 1973. Let's zoom in on that fateful day. It's a scorcher in Hong Kong, the air thick with heat and possibility. Bruce Lee starts his morning at the Mandarin Hotel, meeting George Lazenby, the former James Bond actor. They're discussing Game of Death, Lee's next big project, and the vibe is electric. But there's a glitch. A headache gnaws at him, persistent, annoying. He shrugs it off, pops an 𝒋𝒏𝒕𝒐𝒍𝒅 tablet, a painkiller combining aspirin and a mild sedative that he'd used before, and keeps rolling. Afternoon fades into evening. Lee heads to the Kowloon apartment of 𝒋𝒏𝒕𝒐𝒍𝒅, a Taiwanese actress and colleague. They're deep in script talks, the future shimmering ahead. But that headache creeps back. Sharper now, a blade behind his eyes. He takes another 𝒋𝒏𝒕𝒐𝒍𝒅, lies down on Betty's bed and tells her he'll rest it off. Time slows. Minutes stretch. Then, alarm bells. Betty nudges him, calls his name. Nothing. His chest is still, his face slack. Panic claws at her. She dials Raymond Chow, Lee's producer and close friend, who speeds over. They shake him, shout, but he's unreachable. An ambulance screams through the streets to Queen Elizabeth Hospital. Doctors swarm, defibrillators hum, needles pierce. But at 10:30 p.m., it's over. Bruce Lee is gone. The next morning, chaos erupts. With Lee's wife, Linda, and their 2 children in mind, Raymond Chow, desperate to dodge a scandal, crafts a story for the press. Bruce died peacefully at home, beside his family. It's a flimsy lie, and it crumbles fast. Within 72 hours, the truth spills out. He was at Betty's place. Hong Kong ignites. Tabloids churn out lurid tales of infidelity, drugs, and dark secrets. Fans flood the streets, some sobbing, others raging. Bomb threats rattle cinemas showing his films. The British colonial government, rattled by the uproar, orders an inquest. The dragon's death has unleashed a hurricane. The autopsy, conducted by Dr. Donald Tier, a renowned forensic expert flown in from London, reveals a critical clue. Bruce Lee's brain had swollen dramatically, a condition known as cerebral edema. Its weight had surged from 1,400 to 1,575 grams, a 12.5% increase. Dr. Tier points to 𝒋𝒏𝒕𝒐𝒍𝒅, the painkiller Lee had taken, as the likely culprit. Specifically, the 𝒔𝒐𝒊𝒏, a sedative in the medication, may have overwhelmed his system, triggering the fatal reaction. Traces of cannabis are found in his stomach, but 𝒂𝒏𝒕𝒐𝒍🅅 dismisses them as insignificant. The verdict? Death by misadventure. A tragic, freak accident. End of story. Or is it? Chapter 3. The Conspiracy Theories. Bruce Lee was no average man. At 32, he was a machine. 5'8" of lean muscle, capable of 2-finger push-ups and side kicks that snapped ribs. A painkiller felling him? Fans scoff, friends squint. The theories ignite, each one a spark in the dark. One of the first theories to emerge pointed to the triads, Hong Kong's notorious underworld syndicates. Rumors suggested Lee had crossed them, perhaps by refusing to pay protection money or by cutting into their profits with his wildly successful films. Could a shadowy figure have slipped poison into his tea, settling a debt in silence? While it's a narrative straight out of a gangster movie, there's no concrete evidence to support it. Raymond Chow and others close to Lee dismissed the idea, and the autopsy found no traces of toxins in his system. Another theory takes a more global turn. Some speculated that Lee's immense influence, his charisma, his unapologetic celebration of Asian pride, posed a threat to Western powers. Fred Weintraub, a producer of Enter the Dragon, was rumored to have intelligence connections, fueling suspicions of a covert plot. Was Lee targeted to prevent him from becoming a global symbol of empowerment? While it's a compelling spy thriller twist, there's no evidence to back it up, just speculation and hearsay. Then there's Betty Ting Pei, the Taiwanese actress in whose apartment Lee collapsed. She became a focal point of tabloid speculation. Was she a grieving lover or something more sinister? Sensational stories painted her as a femme fatale, accusing her of jealousy or even involvement in a plot to end Lee's life. She vehemently denied these claims, and toxicology reports supported her innocence, finding no evidence of poison, only the painkillers Lee had taken. Still, the shadow of suspicion clings to her name, a whisper of scandal that refuses to fade even half a century later. Decades later, the tragic death of Bruce's son Brandon Lee reignited the whispers. At just 28, Brandon, poised to follow in his father's footsteps as a rising star, was killed on the set of The Crow when a prop gun, mistakenly loaded with a live round, fired during a scene. The bullet struck him in the abdomen, resulting in fatal injuries. The incident raised haunting questions. Who would use a live round on a film set? How could such a catastrophic oversight occur? The parallels between father and son were impossible to ignore, both dying young under unusual circumstances. For some, it pointed to a family curse. Was there a supernatural force at work, a hex on the Lee lineage? Others saw something more sinister. Could Brandon's death have been another attempt to extinguish the Lee legacy? A family seen as too powerful, too influential, too much of a threat to the status quo? Of course, not all theories drift into the realm of curses and mystery. Some focus squarely on what could have been happening inside Bruce's own body, more grounded possibilities like drugs. Bruce Lee was known to use cannabis, which, while legal in some circles, was taboo in others. Rumors swirled that he might have dabbled in harder substances, leading to an overdose. However, the autopsy found only trace amounts of cannabis in his system, and forensic expert Dr. Untold Mysteries maintained that the 𝒋𝒐𝒊𝒏 tablet was the sole cause of his cerebral edema. Still, the drug-fueled atmosphere of the 1970s kept this theory alive in the public imagination. In 2022, a team of kidney specialists proposed a striking new hypothesis that Bruce Lee's fatal cerebral edema may have been caused by hyponatremia. Too much water, too little sodium, swelling the brain. Lee was obsessed with hydration, gulping gallons to stay razor sharp. That very obsession with hydration, paired with 𝒋𝒏𝒕𝒐𝒍𝒅 known effects on kidney function, could have overwhelmed his body's ability to maintain fluid balance. And boom, cerebral edema. The irony is unmistakable. Lee's own maxim, "Be water, my friend," might have been his undoing. It's unproven, but the irony sings. Although Lee was in peak physical condition, His intense training and dieting may have placed stress on his body. Some speculate that his unverified use of performance-enhancing substances or extreme dehydration techniques could have played a role. But this remains unverified. So, what's the real story? According to Matthew Polly's meticulously researched biography, Bruce Lee, A Life, the most plausible explanation aligns with the autopsy findings. Bruce Lee's death was the result of a tragic and unforeseen reaction to 𝒋𝒏𝒕𝒐𝒍𝒅, which triggered cerebral edema. The so-called cover-up was less a conspiracy and more an attempt by Raymond Chow to protect Linda Lee and her children from the media frenzy and salacious gossip that followed. Shannon Lee, Bruce's daughter, has consistently urged the public to focus on her father's legacy rather than the rumors. "It was an accident," she has said. "Let's honor his life, not the speculation." Yet, there's a haunting footnote to this narrative. On May 10, 1973, just 2 months before his death, Lee had collapsed under similar circumstances, suffering from the same severe headache and brain swelling. He recovered then, a warning ignored. When the same symptoms struck on July 20th, there was no second chance. Had that warning been taken seriously, this tragic and untimely end to a legend might have been prevented. Bruce Lee's flame, already blazing as a legend, could have burned even brighter, illuminating the world with a brilliance beyond imagination. In just a few short years, and with only 5 films, he achieved what others spend a lifetime striving for. Imagine how much more he could have accomplished if fate had granted him more time. Chapter 4. The Legacy, Eternal Fire. Bruce Lee's death did not extinguish his legacy, it ignited it. Just weeks after his passing, Enter the Dragon stormed into theaters, becoming a global phenomenon and grossing over $350 million. The film cemented Lee's status as a cultural icon. His words, his electrifying fight sequences, and his unmistakable charisma immortalized on screen. Even unfinished projects contributed to his lasting impact. At the time of his death, Lee had been working on Game of Death, a film that showcased his visionary approach to martial arts cinema. He had already shot several iconic scenes, including the legendary fight sequence in the yellow and black tracksuit, which would become one of the most recognizable images in pop culture. After his passing, the film was completed using a stand-in and body doubles, with rewrites to accommodate Lee's absence. Despite its fragmented production, Game of Death was released in 1978 and became a commercial success, further solidifying Lee's mythos and introducing new generations to his artistry. In the years that followed, Linda Lee shouldered the responsibility of raising their children, Shannon and Brandon, alone. The family faced another devastating blow in 1993 when Brandon, following in his father's footsteps as an actor, was tragically killed on the set of The Crow. Despite these heartbreaks, Shannon Lee has worked tirelessly to preserve her father's legacy, founding the Bruce Lee Foundation to promote his philosophies and ensure his impact continues to inspire future generations. Bruce Lee's spirit remains untamed, a force that transcends time. The dragon's flame burns as brightly as ever, a testament to a life lived with passion, purpose, and unyielding determination. So, what killed Bruce Lee? Accident, murder, curse? The evidence says misadventure, but the shadows whisper otherwise. Maybe that's fitting. A man who broke molds couldn't leave quietly. What's your take? Drop it in the comments, smash that like button if this hooked you, and subscribe for more mysteries. Bruce Lee said, "Immortality is living a life worth remembering." He nailed it, and we're still talking. The dragon's gone, but the mystery, it's here to stay. Imagine a ship that disappeared without a trace only to reappear weeks later, abandoned and shrouded in questions. What happened to its passengers and crew? Why was the ship left adrift miles off course? And what clues did this ghostly vessel leave behind? This is the haunting mystery of the MV Joyita. In the early 1950s, the South Pacific was a world apart. Vast, remote, and dotted with small islands connected by trade routes that crisscrossed thousands of miles of open ocean. For the people living in these isolated communities, The sea wasn't just a lifeline. It was their highway, their livelihood, and sometimes their greatest threat. Amid this expanse of blue sailed the MV Joyita, a vessel with a storied past. Originally built in 1931 as a luxurious private yacht for a Hollywood director, the Joyita, meaning Little Jewel in Spanish, had once epitomized glamour. But by the 1940s, its glory days were over. During World War II, the ship was repurposed as a military patrol boat for the U.S. Navy and later sold to private owners who transformed it into a modest but reliable merchant vessel. It wasn't flashy anymore, but it had earned a reputation as a tough, seaworthy craft. By 1955, the Joyita was owned by Captain Thomas Dusty Miller, a seasoned British sailor who had spent decades navigating the Pacific. He was well known and respected in the region, a man with a deep understanding of the ocean's dangers and its unpredictable moods. If anyone could safely pilot a ship through these waters, it was Captain Miller. On October 3, 1955, the Joyita departed from the port of Apia in Samoa, bound for the Tokelau Islands about 270 miles to the north. It was a routine voyage expected to take no more than 2 days. On board were 25 people, including 9 crew members, 16 passengers, and a cargo of medical supplies, food, timber, and other goods for the remote islands. Among the passengers was Dr. Alfred Dennis, a respected physician traveling to Tokelau to perform surgery, a testament to the importance of the voyage in such remote communities where access to medical care was rare and often a matter of life and death. Spirits were high as the Joyita left Apia. The weather was calm, the sea steady, and there was no indication that anything would go wrong. But as the hours turned into days, something strange happened. The Joyita didn't arrive in Tokelau. Initially, radio operators assumed the ship had been delayed, perhaps due to a mechanical issue or a minor navigational error. Delays weren't uncommon in the South Pacific, where unexpected problems could add hours or even days to a journey. By the 3rd day, however, concern began to grow. The ship's radio had fallen silent, and there was still no sign of the Joyita. Word spread quickly, and soon a massive search effort was underway. Planes and ships scoured thousands of square miles of open ocean, but there was nothing. No debris, no distress signal, no sign of the Joyita at all. It was as if the ship had simply disappeared, swallowed by the vastness of the Pacific. 5 weeks later, on November 10, 1955, the mystery took a chilling turn. A merchant vessel navigating the waters near Fiji spotted something unusual in the distance. At first, it looked like an unassuming piece of flotsam, a dark shape bobbing on the waves, but as the crew drew closer, they realized it was a ship, the missing Joyita, adrift and abandoned over 600 miles from its intended route. The sight was haunting. The Joyita, once considered unsinkable, was listing heavily to one side with its deck partially submerged. Yet despite the damage, the ship was still afloat, a testament to its sturdy cedarwood construction. But where were the crew and passengers? The vessel was eerily silent, with no sign of life on board. When rescuers boarded the ship, the scene they found was even more unsettling. The Joyita looked like a ghost ship, its interior in disarray, with cargo scattered everywhere. Boxes of medical supplies opened, and blood-stained bandages found on deck, with no explanation for their use. The lifeboats and life rafts were missing, along with personal belongings and the ship's navigational equipment. In the main cabin, the ship's radio was tuned to the international distress frequency, but its antenna was broken, rendering it useless. Rescuers noted that the radio would have had a range of just 2 miles in its damaged state, making it impossible to call for help. Adding to the mystery, the clock in the cabin had stopped at 10:25, as if marking the exact moment something went horribly wrong. The Joyita's engines were another puzzle. The main engine wasn't operational, and the auxiliary engine, a smaller backup, was covered in blankets, suggesting someone had tried to protect it from damage. Yet the ship was still seaworthy despite its listing. It wasn't sinking, and there was no immediate danger to those on board. So why had the crew and passengers abandoned it? The ship's logs were missing, along with any documents that might have shed light on what happened. Rescuers were left with only fragments of a story, signs of a hasty departure, and no indication of where the crew and passengers had gone. As the Joyita was towed back to port, the questions only deepened. What had caused the crew to leave a ship that was still afloat? Why had they taken the lifeboats but left behind vital supplies like food and water? And why was the ship so far off course, drifting aimlessly in the middle of the Pacific? One of the leading theories centers around mechanical failure. The Joyita was far from perfect when it departed Samoa. The ship's main engine was already known to be unreliable, and some reports suggest that a leaking pipe caused water to accumulate in the bilge, creating the appearance that the ship was sinking in a panic. The crew may have believed the Joyita was about to go under, prompting them to abandon ship. But here's the problem. The Joyita wasn't sinking. Its sturdy cedarwood construction made it highly buoyant even in a damaged state. Abandoning such a vessel would have been a last resort, and yet the lifeboats were gone, suggesting the crew had no intention of staying on board. Another compelling theory is that the crew misjudged the situation. The South Pacific is known for its strong, unpredictable currents, and if the Joyita had been taking on water even temporarily, the listing angle might have convinced the crew it was doomed. But why weren't the lifeboats found? Did they drift too far from the search area? Or was there something else, something more sinister, that prevented anyone from surviving? Then there's the possibility of foul play. The Joyita's cargo included medical supplies and other valuable goods, which could have made it a target for pirates. The waters of the South Pacific weren't lawless, but piracy wasn't unheard of in the 1950s. Could the crew and passengers have been attacked, forced overboard, or taken captive? This theory gains traction when you consider the missing personal belongings and navigational equipment. If pirates boarded the ship, they may have taken anything of value before abandoning it. But again, no evidence of a struggle was ever found, and piracy remains speculative at best. One of the more chilling theories involves a rogue wave, a sudden, massive wall of water capable of capsizing ships. Rogue waves are rare but devastating, and some believe a wave might have struck the Joyita, flooding the deck and forcing the crew to evacuate. But the ship was still afloat when it was found, which complicates this explanation. Why abandon a vessel that was clearly capable of surviving such an event? And then, there are the stranger ideas. Some have suggested that the crew might have encountered something unexplainable, a phenomenon so terrifying that they felt compelled to flee. Stories of ghost ships and sea monsters have haunted maritime lore for centuries, and while there's no evidence to support such theories, they speak to the enduring fear of the unknown. The Pacific Ocean is vast and mysterious, and the idea that the Joyita could have encountered something beyond our understanding isn't entirely dismissible. Finally, there's the haunting possibility that we may never know what happened. The ocean is an unforgiving place, and its ability to erase evidence is unmatched. Whether the crew succumbed to dehydration, storms, or even internal conflict, the lack of physical evidence leaves us with nothing but speculation. The Joyita, like so many ghost ships before it, carries its secret to this day. The story of the MV Joyita didn't end with its discovery. In fact, its legacy only deepened as the ship was salvaged and returned to service. But for many, the Joyita was no longer just a vessel. It was a symbol of maritime mystery, a ship that seemed cursed by its own unanswered questions. After being repaired, the Joyita was put back into operation, but its reputation preceded it. Sailors were reluctant to crew the ship, convinced that it was haunted by the spirit of its missing passengers. Some claimed to hear strange noises coming from the hull or feel an unsettling presence when on board. Whether these accounts were genuine or simply fueled by the ship's eerie history, they added another layer of intrigue to the Joyita's story. The ship eventually fell into disrepair and was abandoned once more, this time intentionally left to rot. The Joyita became a relic of its own mystery, a physical reminder of the day it was found drifting in the Pacific, empty and unexplained. But the legacy of the Joyita isn't just about its haunting presence. It's also a reminder of the vastness and unpredictability of the sea. Even in an age of advanced technology and modern navigation, the ocean remains a place where mysteries unfold, where entire ships can vanish, and where answers are often out of reach for maritime historians and enthusiasts. The Joyita is a case study in the unknown. It's a story that challenges our understanding of human behavior, mechanical failure, and the raw power of nature. How do you explain a ship that was still afloat yet completely abandoned? How do you account for 25 people who disappeared without a trace? And how do you reconcile the eerie details, the stopped clock, the bloodstains, the missing equipment, with the absence of any definitive answers? For the people of the South Pacific, the Joyita is more than just a mystery. It's a cautionary tale, a story of how even the most routine journeys can take a turn for the unexplainable. It's a reminder to respect the sea, to acknowledge its power and its ability to keep its secrets. And so the Joyita remains one of the ocean's most enduring enigmas. Its story has inspired countless theories, sparked debates among experts, and captured the imaginations of those who dare to wonder what really happened that fateful day in 1955.
What if everything you know about history is built on a secret buried beneath our cities? Have you ever walked through an old city center and noticed that many historic buildings seem partially buried, with windows and doors set far below the current street level? In districts of New Orleans, in parts of Eastern Europe, and even in some American cities, structures from the 19th century appear to be engulfed by layers of sediment. This observation sparks a fascinating mystery. Could these be remnants of a catastrophic mud flood that erased a hidden chapter of history? Or is there a more mundane explanation? The mud flood theory proposes that during the 18th or 19th century, a sudden deluge of mud swept across vast areas of the earth, burying cities almost overnight. Advocates of this theory point to archival photos and maps showing buried facades, like ornate doorways in Eastern Europe or structures in New Orleans, that support the idea of a global event. Numerous Eastern European cities display 19th century buildings with lower-level windows and doorways that are consistently buried. In cities like St. Petersburg, where the urban landscape has evolved over centuries, certain structures hint at an earlier buried foundation that does not fit neatly into the accepted timeline of urban development. Some even link it to the mystery of Tartaria, a purported lost empire that once spanned much of Asia and Eastern Europe. Historical maps from the 15th to 19th centuries often label vast regions as Tartary, and some documentaries, such as Ancient Angels, explore the idea that Tartaria was an advanced civilization boasting incredible architectural feats, free energy, and even wireless technology. According to this narrative, a sudden global mud flood not only wiped out Tartaria, but forced later generations to rebuild on top of its buried foundations, effectively erasing its true history from the official record. Grand structures that seem out of place, such as the massive stone edifices in Washington, D.C., or the imposing classical columns scattered throughout Europe, might be reconstructed remnants of a civilization that was once far more advanced than we have been led to believe. Some proponents claim that the orphan trains, which relocated 200,000 children across the United States from 1854 to 1929, and the simultaneous rise in the number of people confined to insane asylums in the 19th century are linked to the aftermath of a massive mud flood. They argue that the chaos following such a catastrophic event could have led to widespread social disruption, with entire populations being displaced, rehomed, or even erased from historical records. While mainstream historians attribute these phenomena to the social and economic upheavals of the Industrial Revolution, mud flood theorists argue that a sudden environmental reset provided the perfect cover for a deliberate rewriting of history. Furthermore, the architectural anomalies extend to world fairs of the 1800s. For instance, during events like the 1851 Great Exhibition in London, the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago, and the 1876 Centennial Exposition in Philadelphia, cities rapidly constructed massive temporary structures, only to demolish them soon afterward. Mud flood advocates contend that the scale and speed with which these buildings were erected and then removed seemed to defy the technological limits of the time. They claim these feats of engineering might have been possible only because they were built on pre-existing buried foundations left over from an ancient advanced civilization. However, others argue that this rapid construction reflects industrial progress rather than a deliberate cover-up, with some structures, like the Eiffel Tower, enduring as lasting landmarks. Supporters of the mud flood theory also suggest that there might be powerful interests at play. intent on keeping the true history of our civilization hidden. They argue that the suppressed history of the mud flood is intertwined with other controversial subjects, such as the reconstruction of history following World War I and World War II. This theory suggests that as modern nation-states rose to power, there was a concerted effort to erase evidence of past civilizations that did not fit the new narrative. This rewriting of history, they claim, was facilitated by the deliberate removal or reinterpretation of architectural evidence, leaving behind a sanitized version of our past that serves current power structures. Adding another layer of intrigue, some researchers have linked the mud flood theory to ideas about ancient beings, sometimes referred to as the Nephilim or giants, and portals that connect our world to other dimensions. According to these fringe theories, the same cataclysm that buried the Tartarian Empire could have also opened rifts in the fabric of reality, allowing otherworldly entities to interact with our civilization. Although these ideas are controversial and blend myth with conspiracy, they have captured the imagination of many who seek alternative explanations for the architectural and historical anomalies observed in the built environment. Critics, however, maintain that the buried architectural features can be attributed to natural processes, such as local urban regrading, where streets were raised for practical reasons, and natural sedimentation over time. In Seattle, for instance, the well-documented Denny Regrade project raised street levels over several decades, resulting in many historic buildings appearing partially buried. Similarly, many European cities were built on naturally sloping terrain, and basements or lower levels are common features designed to adapt to these contours. In New Orleans, the high water table led to raised homes, creating the illusion of buried features. In Eastern Europe, communist-era neglect and brutalist architecture might have contributed to the buried look. The 2006 Sidoarjo mudflow in Indonesia, known as Lucy, is a modern example of a mud eruption triggered by drilling mishaps. While the Lucy event is well documented, its localized nature makes it difficult to reconcile with the global patterns observed in historic architecture. Natural processes undoubtedly account for many features in the built environment. However, the alignment of buried windows, doors, and archways across multiple cities on different continents points to a uniform event that seems too consistent to be a mere coincidence. While projects like the Denny Regrade can account for local anomalies, they cannot fully explain the global pattern observed in historic structures with vastly different histories and geographic conditions, from regions as diverse as St. Petersburg, Russia, and the American Midwest, raising the possibility that a single, catastrophic event might have left its mark on the world. The mud flood theory challenges us to reconsider the narrative of progress that we have been taught. The implications of this hidden history are profound. If such a global catastrophe did occur, it would mean that our understanding of the rise and fall of civilizations is incomplete. It would force us to re-examine not only the architectural legacy of our cities, but also the social and cultural evolution of human society. It would also cast doubt on the authenticity of our historical records, urging us to look beyond textbooks and official narratives to uncover the buried truth. In the end, the debate over the mud flood cover-up remains open. Mainstream scientists continue to offer natural explanations, while independent researchers urge us to look closer at the uniformity of the evidence across disparate regions. The truth may lie somewhere in between, or it may be something entirely unexpected. What do you think? Are the buried windows and doors of ancient buildings merely the result of natural processes? Or do they hint at a forgotten global catastrophe that reshaped our civilization? Could the mud flood be the missing chapter of our past? A deliberate cover-up meant to protect the complexities of our history? Let us know in the comments below. If this exploration has sparked your curiosity, please like and subscribe for more deep dives into the mysteries that have been hidden from us. Join us on Untold Mysteries as we continue to question the accepted narratives and uncover secrets buried in time, because sometimes the truth lies not on the surface, but deep beneath it.